Shout out to Justice for All for sending me this article. And y'all are probably looking at this picture and seeing the Infinity Gauntlet and saying, Torian, why do you have a picture of the Infinity Gauntlet with the snap happening right there? Trust me, it's all going to make sense when I start getting into this article, or pretty much, if you look at the title, it's pretty much right there. So as you all know, GQ made a lot of controversy when they came out with that new masculinity issue, or should I say the so-called new masculinity, because it is nothing masculine about that, with Pharrell on the cover wearing that North Face jacket dress. And I read an article about it and gave my analysis. Now, this article that I'm about to read from is going to be coming from this woman by the name of Nicole Russell, who actually did an examination of what was inside of that issue. Like, she actually bought the issue or read through it and basically put an article together and was basically telling us what she read inside of it. Now I'm going to go ahead and read this article and see what she found out. GQ, the arbiter of truth, fashion, and manhood, has decided it's not that men aren't man enough, it's that they are too manly. Most recently, the men's fashion magazine proposed solutions to this problem in their new masculinity issue. In the issue, GQ's editor-in-chief, Will Welch, says he's doing this because traditional notions of masculinity are being challenged and overturned. However, the new masculinity presented in GQ, which is a blend of stereotypes associated with femininity, homosexuality, and heterosexuality, is not only an affront to traditional masculinity, but an attempt to completely eradicate the obvious and wonderful differences between men and women. You might have seen this issue of GQ already. Its cover boasting singer Pharrell Williams donning something akin to a banana that attended a ballroom dance and then went camping is hard to miss. I tweeted about it and the reaction was swift and fierce, one of the most popular tweets I've ever posted. Most of the people who commented despised the new masculinity. But why? After all, isn't the old masculinity too rigid, stoic, and don't forget predatory, if not criminal? GQ doesn't come right out and say that, but inside the issue, they took the liberty of presenting masculinity as a range. They highlighted 18 powerful voices, and they put that in quotes, to offer suggestions on how we as a collective society might better support a new kind of manhood. There's a section advertising how men can better wear makeup. The tips are from a transgendered model, of course, who suggests mascara. Now, listen to that. They have tips in there on how men can wear makeup, and the tips are coming from a transgendered person, most likely one who was born a man and transitioned into a quote-unquote woman. I'm going to ask this again. Does anybody out there listening not see that there's clearly an agenda going on, being pushed? Of course, we know that those over at the Alphabet Academy are going to say no because they're part of the agenda. So they don't see it. They have their blinders on. On men, another tip comes from Hannah Gadsby, a female comedian who tells men to essentially just behave more like women. Now, you see what's going on here? These so-called voices are coming from two different parties. Women who are actually born women, and apparently those in the Alphabet Academy. Those who are more effeminate, who identify more with their feminine side. Basically, two people who should not have any say-so on men behavior. Now, imagine if they got 18 powerful voices, male voices, to go over to Vogue and tell women how to behave, or women how to dress, or women how to look. Oh, it would be third wave feminazis coming out there ready with their daggers, ready to swat at people. The only credit I can give her is that she inadvertently nails the crux of the issue, and the aim of feminists is the new manhood alliance alike, which is to tear down masculinity and simultaneously erase the differences between men and women. First of all, I thought diversity was a good thing. Now they tell us it's not. How is it diversity is only applauded when it comes to race or ethnicity, but when it comes to male and female differences is downplayed, ignored, or criticized? Second, Welch, the editor-in-chief, connects masculinity with the now in vogue phrase toxic masculinity, saying that masculinity should be challenged because toxicity simply cannot thrive in the golden presence of genuine self-love. I don't know what that phrase means exactly, but I can tell you that toxicity almost certainly can survive and does in fact thrive when love of self is present before love of others or God. In fact, selfishness is a hallmark of toxic people. It's important to establish that even though there are selfish, predatory, even criminal men, this does not mean masculinity is toxic. The same could be said for women. They must have not watched one episode of Snapped. The cure to those ills is not to quash masculine traits, but to increase them in a healthy, stable way, establishing respect. Finally, the effeminate nature of the GQ cover and some of the similar advice inside demonstrates the most telling and toxic aspect of this venture. The goal is not just to diminish manhood, but to erase it entirely and replace it with womanhood. Somehow progressives have developed this notion, thanks to third wave of feminism, that men are not just annoying or patriarchal, but are entirely unnecessary. Now, mind you, this is a woman who is writing this article based on that issue. That entire issue that came out with Pharrell wasn't just a section in that magazine for the month. That was a cover of the entire issue. You know how you have a cover of a celebrity on the front and they just talk about like just that person and they'll talk about different things. Notice if you look at that cover again, Pharrell was the only person they talked about. They didn't have any other subheadings where they were talking about anything else. It was called the New Masculinity Issue, which means the entire issue that came out for that month was dedicated to this so-called new masculinity. And she's just giving us key points. And I'm glad I'm reading this because that prevents me from having to actually go and read it for myself. Because I wouldn't dare pick this shit up just to look through and skim it. Just reading this alone is already pissing me off. Nothing could further be from the truth. Men and women have biological and physiological differences that are integral to society and often complement one another. A 1997 article by Brazilian researcher Renato Sabatini in an issue 11 online magazine Brain and Mind describes it as few of those innate differences. It's a bit older, but actually demonstrates my point because there are still obvious differences even though some time has passed. Scientists know that there are many subtle differences in the way the brains from men and women process language, information, emotion, cognition, etc. One of the most interesting differences appear in the way men and women estimate time, judge speed of things, carry out mental mathematical calculations, orient in space, and visualize objects in 3 dimensions. In all these tasks, women and men are strikingly different, as they are two in the way their brains process language. This may account, scientists say, for the fact that there are many more male mathematicians, airplane pilots, bush guides, mechanical engineers, architects, and race car drivers than female ones. So if the research and male and female brains haven't changed, what has? The way we, and by we I mean progressives, talk about it has regressed. Instead of accepting differences and applauding both men and women for them, progressives believe somehow society will be better off if men were neutered and blended into something more like women. I can't think of anything worse than a world without men. If progressives get their way applauding magazines like this new GQ issue, that's exactly what we will have. I have to say, I completely and wholeheartedly agree with everything that this woman put into this article. And I also applaud the fact that she was able to read that issue to draw this analysis. That little bit that I just read right there is enough to know that entire issue is some bullshit. And it's crazy because the article that I'm reading from, the thumbnail that's at the top of the screen is a woman who's clearly a feminist is holding a sign that says the future is still female. I cannot tell you, I get sick and tired of seeing women wear that damn shirt. I remember at my old job, I used to see it a lot from people coming in and, coming and going. And I'm like, keep telling yourself that. But she basically let the cat out of the bag. That's what this whole new masculinity thing is to try to turn men into women. They are trying to take the manhood. They're trying to take the man out of masculinity and throw him more into a feminine role. But they'll try to combat you and say that's not what they're doing. But that's exactly what they're doing. The issue cover speaks for itself. And it said the new masculinity. If that's the new masculinity, then they can keep that shit. I will stick with the old one. The old one works just fine for me. It works just fine for me. That's why I cannot get that's why I call them feminazis. Because they operate, it's literally taking the word feminist and combining it with the word Nazis. What did the Nazis do? They wanted to eradicate people that did not get with their program. What are they trying to do right now? They're trying to get rid of men. Hence why you see this picture with the Thanos snap. They are trying to get that gauntlet so they can snap men out of existence because they see us as a nuisance. They feel that we are in the way. And I'm going to just be completely honest. Many of these feminazis are in the L class over at the Alphabet Academy. Point blank, period. Y'all can't tell me any different. A lot of those feminazis are nothing more than some man-hating, non-dick-getting, carpet-munching bitches. Yeah, I said it. Because it's the truth. Many of them are. Many of them probably couldn't get a man to save their life, so they went over to the other side, and they're still mad about men. And some of them mad they can't be a man. They mad because they got to go through a cycle. They mad because they got to get pregnant. They mad because they got all the stuff going on with them being a woman, and men don't really have to go through that. We just have to go get that checkup when we turn 50, and that's about it. For the most part, women have to go and get a checkup periodically and go through a cycle monthly. Men don't. So really, it also boils down to the fact that many of those feminazis are jealous because they are not men. They can even go as far as to try to go from the L class to the T class. And guess what? They still will operate as a woman. And most of them, that's the thing. Many of them cannot find their root or their footing in their own femininity. So they have to throw rocks and bash masculinity. That's really all it is. It's a host of other things that I can't really think of right now, but those are what come to my mind right now. So that whole new masculinity shit, because that's exactly what it is some shit. They can keep it. I will stick with the old masculinity like I have been for the last 30 years. And if they got a problem with it, they can eat a dick. But then again, some of them probably would hate the thought or the action of actually having to do that. But then again, also because many of them operate like low-level creatures, they'd probably enjoy that just so they can make the man effeminate, since many of them love the thought of castration, mental and physical. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments, and I will talk to you in the next one.